Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain today. Today is, well, we're pretty close to about a week away from Thanksgiving. But this time of year is actually a perfect time of year for us to capture, I should say, grab some leaf mold soil that's kind of been percolating through the warm-ish but cooling down days of fall. Now that the leaves have fallen from the various trees that we have on the property, there's an area where we have some birch trees, maple trees, and oak trees that have dropped all their leaves pretty much at this point, particularly the maples. And we've got a really good, I guess it should say last year's leaf mold soil. And we're gonna grab a bunch of that before things cool down and get to the point where the biology kind of slows down. And we're gonna use that during the course of the winter in our tunnels. So I just kind of wanted to show you the process we go through for capturing this stuff, which isn't really capture, it's kind of like digging it up. And we put it away for short-term storage in our cooler, which we keep it at roughly at about 45 degrees, which is kind of perfect. It's not really super biologically active, but it's still active enough. So let me show you what we're doing. Okay, when you look at this area, you say, wow, look at that. Gee, there's leaves on the ground. Big surprise, huh? But actually what's underneath that is what we're going for. We're going to be digging through just scraping off the new leaves off the surface and looking at last year's, and we're going to grab as much of that as we can to put in our 3 to 4 gallon bucket here. And when we use and make JADAM Microorganism Solution, this is what we're using. Also too, when we are making new batches of JADAM Liquid Fertilizer, this is what we use for an inoculant. Okay, this is an area where it's got a lot of oak leaves in it, things from last year. It's got some sticks. But what we're looking for is we're looking for the stuff that's pretty well decomposed. So you can start kind of seeing, like right here is some fungal. So there's definitely, we're getting down to the area where its materials have rotted down pretty good. So what we're looking for is when you look at this kind of stuff, it's still got a lot of biology in it. And we're going to take this layer right here, which has a little bit of leaves in it, but there's actually quite a bit of soil. And there's a few roots in there too, but I'm not going to worry about those. So this is what I'm looking for. Nice lot of biology in it. And we're going to take as much as we can of this. And it doesn't matter if we have some leaves in it, because it's all about the biology of it. And so what I'm looking for is well-rotted material, and I'll just keep scraping off till this is like at the base of a retaining wall. Good looking stuff. It's got a little tree right here. This was I don't know what it was, but anyway, we're gonna grab a bunch of this material. Then what I try to do is kind of move along to maybe a new area. Just find it, because it's a little bit different, so the biology might be, a little more active, a little less active, just depends. I guess what I'm looking for is just kind of to get a diversity of things. And what I look for is the soil that I can reach with my hands. See, I've got a lot of nice in here. So we're going to collect about 4 gallons of this. And then we'll show you how we store it. Lots of times you can find good stuff right at the base of a tree. Usually there's a lot of activity going on around there where leaf material and stuff is rotted. So you got another good patch of soil right here. Good stuff. It's got a lot of leaf mold in it. That's what counts. And sometimes you can see, well, plastic doesn't count. Sometimes there's waste. Good material. This is kind of around the base of a rose. It's kind of got a different look to it. It's good looking stuff. Nice and easy to grab. I can just basically get this stuff picked up with my hands. I do want to make sure that there's still some organic material in here, because the organisms are feeding on this stuff. So it doesn't matter if I've got a few leaves or other things in there. This is at the base of a pretty good sized maple tree, so. Oh man, look at all that stuff. There's good biology there. Look at all that great stuff, huh? So we're gonna take a bunch of this. And this is all what we're using probably during the whole months of winter all the way up to spring, and then we'll capture another bunch in spring. Wow, look at this. This is amazing. Lots of biology in here. This guy's really lots of good looking stuff. Okay, and it's got a lot of moisture in it too because of the fall. I'm just going to cover this back up so it can keep doing what it needs to do. Lots of good stuff in this one. This is on the other side of the maple tree, on the north side. Oh man, it's so easy to get this stuff up. Well, I got a bucket full already. So here's the spoils of our exploration. We got lots of good biology in here. And when I smell it, it smells really earthy, which is really nice. Which means it's pretty biologically active. Now, one of the things I'm going to do is, in order to kind of keep this kind of fed for the next couple of months, because this is what's going to last us through February until we start seeing the garden kind of coming back to life. And then about that time in February or March, we'll go out and capture another bucket load of stuff, and that'll be our early spring. So what we're trying to do with this is capture, you know, different times of the year when the season's a little different, the different biology that might be growing in it. So that's why we're going to store it, because right now our nighttime temperatures get down into the 40s and our daytime temps are in the 50s. And that's why we're going to store this stuff at like 45 degrees in our cooler. So to kind of keep the same environment that we have now. But I am going to do one thing. It's a little bit more artificial than a sense than what would be considered natural, although there's a lot of carbon in here for things to feed on. The sugars and things that they might be getting from plant roots and stuff like that will be kind of dissipating away. So I'm going to add in 3 cups of just rolled oats and just kind of mix it up, and that would give these guys some, not simple sugars, but some complex sugars to work on. Okay, so the material we're using this is just rolled oats. I mean, you could get the cheapest stuff you want, but we have a lot of this stuff and it's a natural organic, so there isn't any kind of pesticide residues or things of that nature in it. And that's what I just want to make sure, that there isn't something that'll be adding to it that, you know, even trace amounts could, you know, end up causing other kinds of problems. So we're going to put 3 cups of this in and then just hand mix it in. The moisture is already pretty good in this thing. I wouldn't put any more moisture in when you're storing it. I would check it every, you know, week or so just to see how it's doing. And if it is needing a little more moisture, you could put a little more, you know, water in it and just kind of mix it up. You don't want it sopping wet. It's just got to be kind of like a wrung out sponge kind of dampness to it. And that way it'll keep the biology active and it won't go dormant on you. So I'm using 3 heaping cups. Don't tell Denise I'm doing this. She'd say, "What are you doing with all our oatmeal?" That's it. About 3 cups for a 4-gallon. That's kind of what I do, just roughly speaking. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of mix it up into it. Make sure it kind of got all the way through the entire thing. And this will allow it to have, you know, something to munch on while it's sitting there waiting for me to reach my big paw in and grab some to make some JADAM Microorganism Solution. Now, some people would say, "Oh, well, you're changing the whole dynamic here because you're feeding it something I wouldn't normally have." But I think in general, the biology that's in here will eat, you know, anything that has sugars and carbon in it, because there's fungi in here and there's bacterias and there's all kinds of good stuff in here. There's quite a diversity of things in it. And that's all I'm looking for, is just kind of get it mixed within it. So that's why I didn't want to, use tons of it, but it's just enough to keep it fed. And like I said, this is like a spongy feeling damp, and that's about where you want it to be. You don't want it to be any more than that, because otherwise it's just going to go anaerobic on you. And what I'm just doing is I'm just covering it with a light cloth, just like that. And I'll go put it in my cooler, and that's it. So it's actually a great time of year to be able to do this kind of stuff, because the weather is still mild in our area. For other people that might have happened at an earlier time, maybe October or something of that nature. But for us, we're kind of in that zone where we're just transitioning out of things being biologically active into things going into dormancy. Our daylight now is approaching, well, it's getting pretty close to 9.5 hours. And typically what we see at this point, when we get to that period of time between the end of November and really pretty close to the end of January, that's our winter solstice at time, and it's the slowest time of year from plant growth standpoint. And also too, our daily temperatures tend to stay more in the 40s and even go down into the 30s or lower at night. So we see really where the biologic activity slows down. So when we want to make a batch of JADAM Microorganism Solution for our tunnels, we really need to have something that, kind of approximates biologically active and just kind of makes it easier to do. So I'm going to put this in my cooler again, and luckily we're blessed with a cooler that we used to have for the flower business, and we put it in there and store it at roughly at about 45 degrees. But honestly, if you had someplace else, like in a garage or someplace like that, that would work too. And that's all there is to it. It's pretty simple. Anyway, got to use biology, right? So stay safe out there, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.